My name is Cordy Tyndale Vivian, but you can call me CT Vivian. I was born on July 28, 1924 in Boonville, Missouri. When I was little, my family lost our farm to the Depression and our house to a fire. That's when my mother and father got divorced. After that, my mom, Grandma Annie, and I moved to Macomb, Illinois. I was only 6 years old, but my mother and grandmother had a vision for my life. Despite having lost so much, they were determined that I would become an educated, self-confident leader. Because of this foundation, I spent my life using my position to stand up for the rights of others. My grandmother chose Macomb because it had non-segregated schools and a local college. In grade school pictures, I was the only black boy in a sea of overall clad white kids. Racism was always there on the edge. When I was in school, I was not always socially accepted. I wore nice clothes and was black. It made me an easy target. However, most of the fights were just Depression kids acting out the only way they knew how. All we did was fight each other. It's not because we were black or white, because we were all poor. We just fought. In the 4th grade, this white boy gave me a racist Valentine's Day card. I was so angry, I followed him to the lumberyard. I pushed him. I hit him, but he wouldn't fight me. If he wasn't going to fight me, I couldn't fight him. I wanted to fight, but I couldn't. That's when I learned nonviolence. I graduated from high school in 1942 and enrolled at Western Illinois University. However, before finishing my degree, I moved to Peoria and met my wife, Octavia. In 1947, me and some colleagues noticed the local restaurant was refusing to serve blacks, and so that's when I participated in my first nonviolent action by ending segregation at a lunch counter. At that time, I knew then that I would always be working to end segregation and racism. A few years later, I realized the life of the ministry was calling for me, and so me and my wife packed up and moved to Nashville. That's when I enrolled into the American Baptist Theological Seminary. By the time I reached Nashville, I was already a husband, a father, and an experienced civil rights advocate. I don't see the difference between faith and civil rights. Racism is a moral issue. Once I was in Nashville, I started to meet other civil rights advocates, particularly Reverend James Lawson. Lawson was a follower of Gandhi, and he taught me and my friends nonviolence. Later in 1955, Jim Lewis, Diane Nash, and I founded the Nashville Christian Leadership Conference that worked as an affiliate to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, also known as SCLC. During the 1950s, nonviolent civil rights protests were booming, and our organization was a training ground. As things started to get moving, we worked to desegregate Nashville through direct action. In 1960, we organized the city's first sit-ins. We also had economic boycotts, picketing, and faced jail time. On 19th, 1960, I led 4,000 people on a march down Nashville City Hall, and we won concessions from Mayor Ben West, who publicly agreed that racial discrimination was morally wrong. In 1961, the Congress on Racial Equality started freedom rides to challenge interstate transportation laws. As freedom riders were injured, me and 9 other activists replaced them, continuing the journey through the Deep South. That's when I joined the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee to continue the freedom rides into Jackson, Mississippi. We were arrested in Jackson and taken to Parchman Prison Farm, where they beat and tortured us. This was the beginning of my major national movement work. In 1963, Martin Luther King asked me to work on the executive staff of the SCLC as the National Director of Affiliates. As an SCLC strategist, I worked to enact the Civil Rights Bill in Birmingham and the Voting Rights Bill in Selma. I also worked for movements in Danville, Virginia, St. Augustine, Florida, and Chicago, Illinois. In 1965, I worked in Selma to help blacks to register to vote. There I was violently confronted by Sheriff Jim Clark on the steps of Selma's courthouse. When things turned bloody, I shouted out to all the policemen, "If you're gonna arrest us, but you don't have to beat us. If we are wrong, why don't you arrest us? We are willing to be beaten for democracy. And you misuse democracy in the street. You beat people up bloody in order that they don't have the privilege to vote. You beat me in the side and then hide your blows. What kind of people do they think we are? What kind of people are you? We are willing to die for democracy." Apparently, all of this had been captured on television and became a defining moment in the civil rights history. Clark later said he didn't realize that he had punched me. After leaving the SCLC in 1966, I moved to Chicago and began to focus on other projects, including the Urban Training Center for Christian Mission, the Coalition for United Community Action, the Black Strategies and Information Center, the National Center for Human Rights Education, and the Center for Democratic Renewal. In 1970, I wrote the book Black Power and the American Myth. Since then, I have been summoned to 5 different U.S. presidential administrations: Johnson, Carter, Reagan, Clinton, and Obama. In 2013, I received the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Me and my wife continued to work for civil rights in Atlanta, Georgia, when she passed away in March of 2011.